Now, there was a very interesting article in the Harvard Business Review about value disciplines, the values that companies can organize themselves around to establish market leadership. And the authors cited 3 particular value disciplines that companies could focus themselves around. The first one they called, very simply, operational excellence. Operational excellence. That means our organization does it faster, smoother, cheaper, more readily, more consistent, more reliable than anybody else. In the United States, you see large companies like the Price Club or Costco, and they're entirely geared around this. They say, doing business with us is the smoothest, fastest, easiest. And you know what? Because our systems are so smooth, our prices are very, very low. This type of organization attracts the customer that wants low price, that wants high speed and minimum hassle. But let me ask you a question. Do you think it's easy for another organization to be able to copy their operational excellence? Sure. Whatever systems they're using, another organization can come along and copy and be operationally every bit as fast. The second value discipline that the authors cited shows up more in this kind of encounter, and they called it product leadership. Meaning that companies here would commit themselves to producing the latest product, the greatest product, the leading edge type of product. Now, the customers who are willing to buy here are the ones who want the state of the art, and they're willing to pay more for it. But can another company come along and copy product leadership? Sure, we see it all the time, right? A computer company comes out with a brand new, latest model of computer, and it's just a matter of a few months before the others are coming along and saying, we've got it too, but it's cheaper. We've got it too, but it's cheaper. So here also, we get a high level of competitors following whatever you're doing here and competing for the same customers. Now, over here, they cite another value discipline. And this one, the authors referred to as customer intimacy. Intimacy. Now that's an interesting word to hear in business. You don't hear it very often. But what it means is that your organization and the customer have become so intimate in your knowledge of one another, so close in terms of your discussion about the future together, that intimacy becomes the right term. Now, in that kind of a situation, do you think it's possible for a competing company to come in and step in and take over your customer? No way. Over here, they can just compete with you on speed and price. Over here, they can compete with you with the same product, but over here, it's the relationship that counts. Now, again, I ask you, to what extent are you involved in service encounters of the third kind? Are you building intimate relationships, partnerships with your customers, or are you happy being a low-cost, high-speed, high-volume supplier? Or do you pride yourself on your flexibility and adaptability? That's fine today, but tomorrow somebody's going to come and catch you. They're going to copy you as fast as they can. Now, you may sit back and say, boy, Ron, this has given us some food for thought. But before I leave you to think, let me step you even one step further, because there is a service encounter of the fourth kind. In a service encounter of the fourth kind, you don't go to the customer and say, what would you like to become? You take the initiative now and say, oh, customer, have you thought about becoming? In other words, we, from our position looking at the industry and at your customers and competitors and trends in technology, we think it might be interesting for you to consider going in this direction. Have you thought about becoming? Now, that's a very valuable relationship for your customer. And before I leave you, let me push you one more step to a service encounter of the fifth kind. A service encounter of the fifth kind, it goes a little like this. Over here, you know who the customer is, you know what the product is. Over here, you know who the customer is. You know what the product is, you're just not quite sure how they want it. Over here, you know who the customer is, but you don't know what the product is yet. We're going to have to invent that together. In a service encounter of the fourth kind, you know what the product is, but you don't yet know who the customer is. In a service encounter of the fifth kind, you don't know what the product is, and you don't know who the customer for it is either. Now you may say, whoa, Ron, you've gone too far. But let me bring you down to earth and at the same time push you out into space. There's a gentleman named Paul Allen. Paul Allen is the other fellow behind Microsoft, along with Bill Gates. Paul's not worth quite as much as Bill, but it's a sizable amount. And one day, he decided to take a good chunk of that money and invest it in starting up a brand new company called Interval Research. I have the pleasure of having a few close friends who work at the organization. Interval Research's charter is not to make products for today or even for tomorrow, but rather to research what will customers want and what will they be like in tomorrow's tomorrow, 10 to 15 years from now. And they were telling me about a little of the research, and they called it Lollapalooza. What the heck is a Lollapalooza, I said. Lollapalooza is a rock and roll concert series that moves around from city to city all over the United States. Goes leapfrogging around, and along with the rock and roll concert, which attracts people between about 13 and 18 years old, are a series of very interesting exhibits. Interval Research paid for one of these really interesting exhibits, and under the big tent that moved with the rock and roll concert from city to city were 65 computerized exhibits. Every one of these exhibits invited people to interact, but there were no keyboards. All of the interaction was voice activated, eyeball sight activated, body temperature activated. And the company was researching about these interfaces, but they were also researching not just how the youngsters, 13 to 18 years old, interacted with the technology, but also how the 13 to 18-year-olds were interacting with each other around that kind of technology. Who are the opinion leaders? What kinds of groups were forming, and how long did they last, and how did they unform? What were the preferences and tendencies of these young people? These young people today, they're the ones with the green hair, and they've got a pierced nose, and ripped blue jeans, and Doc Martens shoes, and they go stomping around like it's the latest, greatest thing. But do any of us have any idea what these youngsters are going to be like as customers in another 10 or 15 years' time? No idea at all. But Interval Research is starting to have an idea. They're starting to understand the group dynamics of this group. They're able to already begin to discern what are going to be the preferences of customers like this so they can design for that in a decade or 2 decades' time. Let me leave you with this question. What's your Lollapalooza? Are you saying, whoa, that's way too far for us. We'll just come along behind the other companies that invent the future? Or should your company be one that's committed to being in the future, working with your customers today to make a brighter tomorrow, building together in each of these different service encounters so that as your customers evolve and grow, you evolve and grow together with them? Service encounters of the third kind. Food for thought. Thank you.